Okay, today we're gonna weave or wiggle some wood here, maybe make a charcuterie board. I started on this stuff, started filming it. Unfortunately, my SD card had a problem and I lost all that footage. So we've got this far with this stuff, but we'll show you. Nothing lost here. So we'll show you how we get all these curves in here. And I have another video out there on how to weave or wiggle wood too. So I'll link that at the end of the video. Anyways, we'll take these guys and stack a couple on top of each other like this, and then however we want it, and then we'll use some super glue, some activator, and some tape. That's what I got. If you got some double-sided tape, that works great too. So we'll get these guys stuck together here and show you what we got going. Okay, so I think I want to incorporate this piece into this piece. And I kind of want it so that this, I'm going to take a thin cut on the bandsaw like that. So I want to glue these pieces about like that there. And that'll work pretty good. So what I'm going to do is put that right there, and we'll put some tape on here. Some blue painter's tape. Get all the wrinkles out. Super glue. Little activator on this side. We'll press that in. That should hold it pretty good. A few seconds. Okay, there we go. So let's take that over to the bandsaw. Okay, so we've got a 3/8 inch bandsaw blade in here with 8 TPI, 8 teeth per inch. That's what I'm using. Had that on my saw. It's going to work just fine. So what I want to do is just kind of follow this one existing curve in here. You know, just freehand it. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's what makes it kind of nice. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so what we got off the bandsaw, like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these apart now. And then see what we got going here. So all we're going to do really is just trade places with the top and bottom boards. that. And then this board. Here, it's kind of like that. So we'll just take and glue these together here, like this, glue these guys together, and then try to figure out what we want to do and how we're going to incorporate this board into this. So we'll go from there. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of sandpaper here and just knock off some of the feathers. I'm using the 100 grit here. Just want to touch it up a little bit. Get the feathers out of the way. Use a little Tight Bond 3 in a mustard container. It makes you, that mustard container makes your glue work better. So I'm just gluing the two boards that I cut apart. So here, gluing these two. Not going to have any glue in between that board and this board. Not quite. So this is what we glued up. This piece, I'm going to move this piece off to the side and we'll try to incorporate this piece into this piece. Okay, I think I'm going to lay this one on top here and cut along here. Incorporate this into that. And this top one into the lower one. So what I've done is kind of figured out where I wanted it. Drew a line here to line up when I glue these together, and the same down here. And then I'll just kind of cut a free-handed strip through here. So that'll be what it is. Same old thing. Just painter's tape and super glue. Take it over to the bandsaw. So we'll take this apart here. Once again, it's a pretty easy process, kind of fun. And then it just takes a little time with all the gluing up. But it's fun. And it turns out something pretty interesting, I think. So we'll trade places with that one. replace it with that one again. So now we're getting there. Okay, we'll take and go glue these two pieces up. Okay, I got a little piece of walnut here. I'm going to resaw this down to a little bit thinner strip, and then I'll incorporate it in this wood here and see how we're doing. I've got a feather board here set up and on my bandsaw, and I'm still using that 3/8 by 8 TPI bandsaw blade. So we'll see how this goes. I think that did a pretty decent job. Sure like these little feather boards, inexpensive, made by POWERTEC. Pretty good little deal here. Okay, I'm over at the planer. We're going to thin these strips down. I got a video on how I do this on a planer, make some really thin strips. But I got a piece of melamine here, got it clamped to the table there, and we'll run this through here. We can get them pretty thin. Just take little tiny bites at a time. That's the secret. All right, we'll check that. Okay, I want this to be as thick as the kerf on this blade, so the same thickness as the blade. So what I do is I run this saw and I run it in there a little bit, pull it out, and then I take this guy here and just kind of match it up to there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's pretty good. Pretty close for what we're doing here. So I'll explain to you why here. Okay, so these are the same thickness as the kerf on my bandsaw. And the reason for that is if I'm going to incorporate these in here and I cross over these lines here, or any lines that I cross over, if I glued this together and it was straight and I wanted to cross that over here and just kind of weave it over and wiggle that around this seam here, well, your seams aren't going to line up because you're missing wood. So when you glue that back together, you're going to be misaligned. So if this isn't the right thickness, it's really going to show up. So if you have the same size kerf to replace the wood that you take out or that is removed with that saw blade, then you get a little better product. It looks a little nicer. Okay, I'm going to glue that up. So we got this guy in here now. And then these lines line up here because we made that little strip the same thickness as the kerf on the saw. So I'm going to add another piece in here, probably something along that line. And then we'll glue this board all together, probably at the same time we glue this in here. So we'll take this over to the bandsaw. Well, you gotta hook up your dust collection if you're gonna turn it on, for goodness sakes. Okay. All right, here we go. I'll try that again. Jeez. Okay, so now let's turn this into a charcuterie board. You could use it like this, I'd imagine. Be nothing wrong with it. It would double as a cutting board too. But we're gonna see what we can do about putting a handle or making a handle on this thing and turn it into a little charcuterie board. See what we come up with. Okay, so I kind of just freehand draw kind of a funky looking little handle on this thing. You can see my line here. And then cut this out here. Some of this I could probably cut on the bandsaw, but I'm going to need my little jigsaw for some of this stuff. So. Okay, I think it'll be a little boring to have straight sides, so right off the bat here, we're going to try to give this thing a little bit of character. Throw some more curves in on the edges here, this edge and this other edge. So we'll yeah, just kind of do it here, see what happens. Okay, so rather than having a straight edge across the bottom here, we'll just do some little freehand cut in here, see what it looks like. All right, so this is what we got for curves rather than straight edges, kind of boring, the ends straight, so I just kind of clean that up a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is we got to cut this out, but I'm going to drill some holes here, make it a little easier on these corners. So on the inside corners anyways. So I got 1 1/8" Forstner bit here. Didn't have to be exact, we're just doing what we can here. I've decided to use the bandsaw best I can, and then I'll use a spindle sander to kind of clean that up. So I'll continue on here. Okay, let's break out the spindle sander. All we got left to do is sand it and put a finish on it. So I'm going to spare you the sanding, and then we'll put a finish on this after we get back. So we'll just let that dry. I'll come back and do a finish sand. Okay, we've got all the sanding done. So we're going to take and put a little finish on here. I'm going to be using some Walrus oil, cutting board oil. I like this stuff, it works pretty good. Then I like to just use my hands, spread it on there. Not going to hurt you. This is the fun part. Get to see how the grain kind of pops in this. Yeah, we'll get a good coat on this, and then I'll hang this board up a little bit and let it kind of soak in, and then we'll put the wax on there for final finish. Okay, the oil is soaked in. Looks pretty good. So we're going to take and put some wood wax on there, made by Walrus Oil. This stuff's pretty good. I just apply it by hand, with my hand. I put a good coat, get that all rubbed in. Just the heat from your hand will soften that up enough to get it moving on there pretty good. So I'll get this all rubbed on here, and we'll start buffing it out. Okay, we've let this board sit for about 15 minutes. So we're gonna go ahead and wipe the wax off here and then give it a little buff. Take it in the house, put it on the counter, see what it looks like. Okay, well here it is. On the kitchen counter, looks pretty good. Fun project, have fun.